Hey guys, everything new under the sun here. Here's an article from investmentwatchblog.com. Really interesting one if it is true. Wells Fargo insider says bank is preparing for emergency scenario. This is an article I missed. It came out February 4th on Investment Watch blog. A Wells Fargo bank insider who claims to be a teller has said that the banks are training their staff to deal with an imminent emergency scenario. The insider reports, "I'm a teller at Wells Fargo here in the U.S. This is also my first time using this proxy. They started training us today for a bank holiday, and as holidays before. Yeah, that's what happened in Greece actually when they decided they couldn't pay anymore and they hadn't reached a deal. All the banks had a holiday and you could only pull out so much per day. I think 60 euros a day or something like that they could pull out. So they basically, people couldn't pull out their cash that they had in their bank. They started training us today for a bank holiday. They didn't mention the word bank holiday, but they did train us for an emergency scenario. They told us it's just a drill. I've been working here for 3 years, this person says, and we never had a drill before. They said that during an emergency, they would close the doors and only allow 3 people at a time inside of the branch. Also, my branch manager said that we would have armed guards during the emergency." Now, I wonder, do they know what's coming? Are they preparing? I think they do. I think the higher-ups have a pretty good indication of what is likely to occur. If there's a disorderly default of the U.S. or some other panic, the market crashes or something, you would quickly have people running to the banks, running on the bank and pulling out all their cash. But before they would let you pull out all your cash, especially in the event of, say, if a bail-in were about to occur or something, they would have a bank holiday, and they basically wouldn't open the bank. So you go to your bank and say, "I'd like the money that I put in there, that's mine." And they say, "No, you can't have it. You can have X number of dollars to get you through this day for groceries or milk, but you cannot take all your cash out." This is why it's probably not safe to have cash in the bank in this day and age. It would have been unthinkable, obviously, to say that, even 5 years ago, that you couldn't trust a bank with your money. But I think it's quite apropos now as it relates, in view of the current economic situation. The last thing they mentioned is that they won't store a lot of cash in the vault since it will be a safety issue. And that could mean that the higher-ups recognize that maybe cash will actually be valuable at that point. Now, there are people who are saying hold cash because even if the banks collapse, the cash is still worth something. And so holding cash, especially to get you through a few days, a few weeks of bank holiday, would be smart. The banks in Greece, as an example, just last year, 2015, were closed for, I think it was 3 weeks, where you could not go in and pull out large chunks of cash. You got your allotment, 60 euros a day, or whatever it was, to pay to buy daily food, because they can't just cut all the money off cold turkey, because then there will be riots in the streets, and the banking elite and the police forces and the armies, they know you can't. They know there would be a massive uprising if that occurred, so they have to give you some money for food, because if you can't feed yourself, you're going to start going crazy, and then they wouldn't be able to manage the population. So you have a bank holiday, you close the doors, you give them a little bit of cash to get some food, and then you can prevent a large bank run and the bank losing all its money basically. And so the insiders said, "Just wanted to share this with you guys." Superstation95.com reports, a call by Superstation 95 to Wells Fargo corporate headquarters in San Francisco to verify these claims were met with a terse no comment. Now, it is interesting that they say no comment. That probably indicates, and they do interpret it, but it probably indicates that they have some drills. Even if they don't know if something's coming or suspect something's coming, they probably have drills anyways. I would expect that banks in general would have backup plans for all these things, but the fact that they're actually training staff on them now could be more of an overt sign that they think something might be coming soon. Interpretation here. If taken at face value and believed, why would Wells Fargo be doing this? What emergency could take place that might cause people to swarm to a bank in such numbers that they would have to lock the bank and only allow 3 customers in at a time. A banking collapse, an economic collapse, a currency collapse. None of these things would be good, and if claims above are true, it is a dangerous signal to the rest of us to get some money out to tide us over for a month or so in the event everything shuts down. And this is what I've been saying. Greece was down for 3 weeks. Their bank holiday. Venezuela, I have no idea what they're doing, to be honest. But you need cash in hand probably for a month at least. That would pay, as an example, your mortgage and maybe buy some food as well. And that's minimum. And then you have your gold and silver on top of that, and your store of root vegetables in your cellar to get you through that time, so you don't need to be scrambling to the grocery store on the day this occurs, because everybody's going to be scrambling in the grocery store there then. None of these things would be good, and if the claims are above are true, it's a dangerous signal to the rest of us to get some money out and tie us over for a month. In a banking emergency, credit and debit cards will not work. ATMs will not work. Banks will be closed so that you cannot even enter your own safe deposit box. This has happened in Greece last year. So if you think this is pie in the sky stuff, conspiracy stuff, you're wrong. It happened in Greece. It happened in Cyprus a few years before. And it's happening in Venezuela right now as we speak. Do you have enough cash on hand to get through a couple of weeks operating solely on cash? If not, you'd better get that taken care of. We're not even talking about making payments on your debts during that time, but rather only using cash to get food, fuel, and such to live. Could you make it for a month without access to any financial tools or bank cash? And probably for 99% of us, that would be hard. That would even be alarming to me if we could not do that. I think I'm fairly well prepared, but we were without access to a grocery store for 3 days during a snowstorm, and it certainly felt like, and they hadn't even plowed our road because we got so much snow, record amounts. But that certainly felt like the end of the world. And after 3 days, you start getting antsy about needing to get out and get some fresh milk or whatever. Do you have spare food in the house? If stores stop taking credit cards or cards don't work, how will you eat if everything remains cash only for a month? These are legitimate questions you should be asking yourself right now. I would agree with them. Time may be short. An economic collapse would take place with lightning speed, and by the time you realize what's happening, people will already be storming the banks and supermarkets to stock up. Waiting until it actually happens is waiting too long. You'll be too late. Word to the wise, prepare, he says in investmentwatchblog.com. And I would pretty much agree, and you've seen on my other videos related to this what I think you should do and what makes sense. And God gives us wisdom, and He asks us to be, or we are required to be good stewards of what He has blessed us with. And that also means you have a responsibility. If you're a man, as an example, head of a household, your wife and kids to look after, then you need to prepare. And I'm certainly no professional there, and we have a lot of distance we can go further to do that. But we have a bit of a stock of food and that sort of thing. And if this is going to happen, and it very well could, then you need to be ready for it. You need to be ready for all eventualities. From that point of view, you need to be like a standard old prepper and have the ability to survive by yourself for some time, depending, and that could be up to a month, even 2 months, or 3 months, depending on how disorderly an economic collapse ends up being. Does it become Mad Max? I don't know. Certainly the world elites and the governments absolutely would not want it to go that far, and they would do whatever they could to ensure that it wasn't mass panic. But if it does come down to that, you're going to have a lot of people who are hungry and tired and need to feed their families. Or, they're starving. And, if you go a week like that, you're going to have gangs roaming around with guns, weapons of any sort, probably looking for food at the next house. And that could come. That's happened before. That is not a new thing. When people are hungry and cold and desperate, they will do anything to to get what they need, and they may not care if they die getting it, because they're going to die anyways if they're starving to death, as an example. So it's an interesting insider story from about the Wells Fargo Bank. And do they know something's coming? Are they preparing their staff for something? It would make sense. They probably went through the same drill in Greece because they knew that was coming. So they probably went through the exact same drill. And it'd be interesting. Actually, I should Google that and see if there's any stories about that. But anybody should recognize that this is very, very possible this year, even likely with the debt load on the world's populations. The derivatives, the gambling that's going on with the markets, it's almost inevitable that it is inevitable. Mathematically, it cannot be sustained. They can prop it up for a few years, but once the public realizes they're just printing money out of thin air, and realizes that the dollar bill I hold in my hand, if I had a dollar bill in my hand, once all the public realizes that it's really not backed by anything, it's really completely worthless. Then there'll be a mad scramble for anything of value: TVs, food, livestock, gold and silver. Obviously, they'll want anything that you can actually trade, barter, or that has any sort of value to it. So a good story from Investment Watch blog, and it would be good for you to be prepared for any eventuality. And as I said before, even if there's just a big winter storm or a flood or something, you would be wise to be prepared either way. And so this may be coming, and I would suspect that in fact this is coming shortly to us, but we have no idea, and maybe they'll keep it afloat for another month or 6 months or a year. Who knows? But anyways, just wanted to give you a little bonus video for Sunday. I've already put my Sunday video up. And yeah, that's it. And make sure you watch the other video about the timeline of the Return of the Lord. I think it's a really exciting video. Check that one out if you haven't watched that one already. And we'll talk to you on Monday in the next video.